you haven't heard about the Anchor, it's the easiest way to make a podcast. Let me explain. It's free. There are creation tools that allow you to record and edit your podcast right from your computer phone or your computer. The Anchor will distribute your podcast for you, so it's easy to be heard on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, and many more. You can make money from your podcast with no minimum listenership. It's everything you need to make a podcast in one place. Download the Anchor app or go to anchor.fm to get started. Thank you very much.
Alright, good evening, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to my full episode of Gotta Have Heart Wrestling by yours truly, Jamal Holness, and we are going to talk about the brutality, the endurable, the intangible, the dangerous structure known as the Elimination Chamber. That's right, we're going to talk about the history of the Elimination Chamber match itself, the pay-per-view, the match, the history, maybe some facts behind it, etc. We can really have some fun this episode here. And it's so amazing. Like, I've actually wanted to talk about Elimination Chamber for a while now. I think, to me, the Elimination Chamber is kind of fitting since it is on the road to WrestleMania between the Rumble and WrestleMania itself. And it just lets people, audience, know that the road to WrestleMania is going to take a swerve, a dangerous turn towards getting to the main show of shows, and that is the Elimination Chamber itself. It's pretty crazy. You know, Elimination Chamber, the first one debuted on November the 17th, 2002, in MSG at the Survivor Series, and that was the inaugural Elimination Chamber matchup. So now, as of this year, 2021, the Elimination Chamber is now 19 years old. Think about it, 19 years of probably some of the most brutal matches that has ever taken place in the WWE, and it's been so surreal that now it's becoming forefront on the road to WrestleMania, either having the Chamber itself for a championship match or a title opportunity down the road. It was pretty amazing. And who could ever forget 2 years ago in the 2019 Elimination Chamber match, we crowned the first ever WWE's Women's Tag Team Champion, the inaugural WWE's Women's Tag Team Championships, and it's pretty amazing. It really is. Fun fact, though, that the first chamber match that took place was, well, the first Elimination Chamber event, the Raw to itself in 2010, took place on February 21st, and aired live pay-per-view. It's crazy because the event's name was selected after WWE Live fans provided via the survey on the official website. Then there was also another name chosen for this event too. It's called either Heavy Metal, Battle Chamber, Chamber of Conflict, and the original, of course, No Way Out name that I've already talked about before on my podcast. It's the history of No Way Out. It's crazy. Since its origin, each event has taken place in the United States since 2015. It's pretty amazing. It really is. And in 2015, the event was replaced by Fastlane in the February pay-per-view slot. So think about it, this event has been February from 2010 to 2014, and all of a sudden we have the inaugural Fastlane pay-per-view event, which that event is still around today, that debuted in February 2015. So it's pretty crazy. So that month of February 2015 did not hold any Elimination Chamber event, rather than it should. But get this though, however, the 2015 Elimination Chamber event was later announced to be streamed exclusively on the WWE Network in the United States on May 31st, and was also on pay-per-view elsewhere too. Not even in the network, that's the Brazilian pay-per-view elsewhere. So now, you have this exclusive event. It's now had its own pay-per-view. It happens at least once a year, and it's been, kind of the forefront of things to come. Like I said, that dangerous turn. I mean, if you're a award winner and you don't know who's the champion and who to choose the Facebook champion of WrestleMania, but most likely you don't really make a decision after. Such as this year's award winner Edge, who had won the Rumble from the number one slot, hasn't still even chosen his, opponent yet to which champion of Raw, SmackDown, or possibly even NXT for this year's WrestleMania, April 10th or April 11th. So it's pretty interesting to see, if he's going to wait after the Elimination Chamber in real life this Sunday at 7 o'clock 4 Pacific on the WWE Network to make his decision about which champion that he wants to face at WrestleMania this year. So we just got to wait and see. Here's one thing. People think that Elimination Chamber took place every year. That's not substantially true. It did not take place in the year 2007, and also it did not take place in the year 2016. But however, it returned in 2017 as a SmackDown exclusive brand only for the first time. And then in 2018, it went to being a Raw exclusive brand, exclusive branded event. And get this, the 2018 Raw brand event featured the first ever women's elimination match, first time ever. And that night also made history, happening the first ever 7-man elimination matchup, where you have 4 men locked in their respective pods, and the first 3 people started the match as a triple threat matchup. So I guess more brutality since the more bouts combatants in the match itself. So it's pretty surreal. It really is. And get this, the 2019 event, which was that one I was just talking about, was a dual brand event that determined the inaugural holders of the Women's Tag Team Champions first time ever. And it's pretty crazy because the 2020 event took place in March instead of February to make room for the Super Showdown event. So yeah, it's pretty crazy. Oh, another fun fact: this thing is that Elimination Chamber is in Germany is known as No Escape, to avoid connotations of the gas chambers used during the Holocaust in World War II. Bet you some people know that as well. So it's pretty crazy. But there's also a certain concept, and the concept is that the Elimination Chamber match is generally contested by six participants, with the 2 beginning to start in the ring, while the other 4 are held within the inner chambers themselves. And of course, every 5 minutes, one of the 4 participants within the chamber is released into the ongoing matchup. Of course, this continues until all 4 have been released, and so Elimination Chamber match typically lasts over about 20 minutes. So it's not too bad, but they can sometimes go longer than 30 and 40 minutes at the same time. But the thing is, the objective of the match is to eliminate each of the opponents from the match by executing pinfall or submission, which can most times occur in the ring or even outside on the elevated chamber floors itself. And starting in the 2012 event, however, all pinfall submission must take place in the ring. Disqualifications do not apply. In the process of elimination, the winners of the match is the last remaining participant after all of the others have been eliminated themselves. So it's pretty crazy here, really crazy. But I mean, the rules basically, it's like if you're in any elimination matchup, you're gonna, want to at least be that last person remaining. You get this, from 2010 to 2012, the event featured 2 elimination matches, usually one from each brand, until August 2011, when the brand's extension ended. In 2010, the Raw Chamber match was for the WWE Championship, and the SmackDown Chamber match was for the World Heavyweight Championship. Of course, 2011, the Raw Chamber match determined the number 1 contender to go against the WWE Championship at WrestleMania 27, due to Alberto Del Rio, SmackDown superstar, winning the Rumble, which was the biggest Rumble that year. And the SmackDown Chamber match was again for the World Heavyweight Championship. And get this, in 2012, there was 1 chamber match for the WWE Championship and 1 chamber match for the World Championship, just like the same concept used in 2012, in 2010, I mean. And get this, in 2013, there was only 1 chamber match that took place, and it was for the shot to battle the World Heavyweight Championship at WrestleMania 29. And get this, in December 2013, of course, with the John Cena, Randy Orton TLC match to become the first ever WWE World Heavyweight Championship. In 2014, there was only 1 chamber match that was for the WWE World Heavyweight Championship, who defended against Batista in the main event of WrestleMania 30. That's pretty crazy here. So it seemed like during that time period, most of the chamber matches either took place for the WWE Championship, the World Heavyweight Championship, the WWE World Heavyweight Championship, or at least to get that title shot at WrestleMania here. So get this. Of course, we've seen the same concept every year. Luckily, in 2015, WWE decided to do a change. Because when the event moved from February to late May, there were 2 elimination matches announced. But the first one was the first ever tag team elimination matchup. It was pretty crazy. It was for the WWE Tag Team Championship. So you could have 4 teams left in their, well, at least in their respective inner pods, while you have the 2 first tag teams fight each other as a normal tag team matchup. Meaning that there were 12 participants in the chamber match that night. Well, with the exception of the New Day, which were allowed to have all 3 members in the chamber, which made it a 13-man chamber matchup, which I think probably is the biggest one to this very day, even though it was for the WWE Tag Team Championships themselves. So it's pretty crazy here. Although there was a second chamber match that night, and this was the first time ever to determine the vacate Intercontinental Championship, who was vacated by Daniel Bryan early that month. The event was originally discontinued in 2016, but however, thanks to Shane McMahon, the SmackDown commissioner at the time, reinstated the event in 2017 as a SmackDown exclusive brand event and moved back to February in 2018. Of course, the match in 2018, featured for the WWE Championship, was a Raw exclusive event, which also featured the first ever WWE Raw Women's Championship by Alexa Bliss at the time, who has successfully defended inside that chamber. But also was the first ever 7-man chain match to determine who would face Brock Lesnar for U.S. Championship in the main event WrestleMania 34. The 2019 Chamber was the first dual brand event since 2011. So that means throughout those 8 years, the event had been either exclusive to Raw or SmackDown. So right now we got the dual brand event. It included a first ever another tag team chain matchup to determine the inaugural WWE's Women's Tag Team Championships. This is pretty huge in this case because as a fan, you enjoy the first time ever matches. So for the first time ever, you have these brand new championships. How are going to be determined? Then the first ever Women's Tag Team Championships Women's Chain matchup, which is cool. I actually definitely enjoyed this match from start to finish here. Again, last year, 2020 event was again a dual brand event, featured a first ever SmackDown Tag Team Championship Women's Chain matchup, as well as a Women's Chain matchup for the first time ever for the women to decide who would be the known contender to face Becky Lynch for the Raw Women's Championship at WrestleMania 36. So it's pretty crazy. This Women's Championship event has been, very exclusive. It's been very detrimental. It's been dangerous of that some sort. And it's kind of like you don't know what's going to happen or who's going to win or if your favorite superstar is going to win after all. And it's just pretty crazy. It really is, Oh, man. Well, as a fan, I enjoy the chain matchup. And, I can't wait to see. This Sunday, we're going to have 2 chain matches. Otherwise, and other than that, we have all of these underclass matches too. I think it's gonna be a great event. On the road to WrestleMania, it's gonna take a very dangerous turn for superstars of both Raw and SmackDown. But it's gonna be pretty cool though. It is. And when we return here, I'll talk about the Elimination Chamber matches themselves and personally a few of my favorite ones. Maybe not all of them. We won't go through the whole list, but at least my favorite ones here. And we'll be right back in this message from Anchor.fm. Alright, we are back on this special full episode of Gotta Have Heart Wrestling featuring yours truly, Jamel Holness. And here's also to know, there's some other fun facts to chain match before I get into the actual matches themselves that actually happened in WWE's history. It's crazy. As of course it's relations to the Hell in a Cell match, there's those qualifications that apply. In fact, there have been 2 different Elimination Chamber structures in WWE's history. And the first one, the new one that took place was in 2017 when there was a SmackDown exclusive event. They get this, the original structure, the first one that happened, was 16 feet tall, 4.9 millimeters high, 36 feet, 11 meters inch diameter, weighed over 10 short tons, which is 9,100 kg, and compressed 2 miles, 3.2, and 6 short tons, 5,400 kg of chain. That's pretty amazing. You know how big and heavy this Elimination Chamber structure is. And yet, there have been 26 Elimination Chamber matches in WWE's history since the concept's inception in November of 2002. It's really amazing how big this match is, It really is. But get this, before, of course, the introduction of the Elimination Chamber match itself, WWE only promoted 2 matches in a caged environment, which were the steel cage and Hell in a Cell themselves. The steel cage was the first type cage match based in professional wrestling, consisted of 4 fenced walls of steel surrounding the ring apron, while the Hell in a Cell was a taller roof version that surrounded the ring and ringside on the ground rather than an apron. So, in year 2002, WWE announced the creation of the Chamber, the match that combined elements of WWE's Hell in a Cell, Rumble, Survivor Series, and World Championships Wrestling's War Games all in one. Such as the countdown, the timer, the time intervals from the Rumble and War Games matches, the large enclosed cage format of both Hell in a Cell and War Games, and the elimination process of the Survivor Series itself. That's pretty crazy. So you take all the elements of these special matches and combine it into one, apparently you get the Elimination Chamber itself. This is actually pretty amazing. I as a man, I actually didn't know that before. I did my research on it, so it's pretty crazy. It really is. Alrighty. Well, sadly, Elimination Chamber, how dangerous destruction is. You can get easily injured in this matchup. Unfortunately, Triple H did suffer an injury during the inaugural chamber match with a swelling on the side of his throat, which put pressure on his esophagus and thratria. And this was caused after Robin then performed the five-star frog splash off one of the chamber pilots themselves. And, out of Triple H's words, he expressed that concern that he might have over broken his wrist and noted anything could have caused it. Another person, Sheamus, WWE superstar Sheamus, who suffered a concussion during the Raw Chamber match in 2010. Also in 2010, The Undertaker was involved in a pyrotechnics incident during his ring entrance. Still don't know what happened, but I'm guessing if he rushed the ring that time, because I remember seeing that Undertaker went out and it's pretty crazy to see him actually walking through the pyro. I'm like, holy shit, pretty crazy. And he was temporarily engulfed in flames on 3 occasions when pyrotechnics were mistimed and his jacket briefly caught on fire. He suffered first and second degree burns to his neck and chest, and according to WWE spokesperson, the injury looked like a bad sunburn. He was only allowed to participate in the match after being cleared by a ringside doctor and was given bottles of water throughout the match to douse himself to elevate the discomfort. So yeah, pretty crazy. Like, to have Undertaker look like he had sunburn in the match, and I guess that's the reason why he started dousing himself in all those bottles of water, not drinking them. But yeah, it's pretty crazy. It really is. And it's pretty crazy. According to WWE Magazine, an article in 2009 by WWE's production designer Jason Robinson, who co-signed the structure, several designs for the chamber were considered. The structure was manufactured in Colorado Springs, Colorado. And yet it took 6 to 8 weeks to make from design blueprints, and cost the U.S. $250,000 to construct. That's really amazing. That definitely is. To me, that's a lot of money to construct a chamber of this size. Get this. It was not only Raw SmackDown superstars that have used the chamber itself. In the fifth Elimination Chamber match in all of history was held by the ECW brand at ECW December to Dismember, was a slight variation called the Extreme Elimination Chamber matchup. In this variation, each chamber had one of 4 weapons two competitors locked inside to hold on to. And when each competitor chamber opened, their weapon entered this match with them. The 4 weapons that were used in that match were a crowbar, a table, a steel folding chair, and a barbed wire bat wrapped in barbed wire baseball bat. And it's crazy, because the 2015 chamber match event saw another slight variation to the match, namely the tag team chamber match. Both members of their respective tag teams were inside the chamber for a total of 6 teams in the matchup. This match was for the WWE Tag Team Championships. The variation was repeated in 2019 with women and to determine the inaugural WWE Women's Tag Team Champions. It's pretty amazing. And despite that this match doesn't seem like it can be no way in and no way out, that begs to differ. Because despite the structure, the interference has become very common in some chamber matchup here. At Knees Revolution in January 2005, Ric Flair distracted specialist referee at the time, Shawn Michaels, allowing Batista, who already had been eliminated by Randy, to attack Randy Orton so that Triple H could win the match and become the new WWE World Heavyweight Champion. So it's pretty crazy. No matter what the structure is, you can still find a way to interfere and at least help your man or woman win the match. And get this, at No Way Out in February 2009, Edge attacked Kofi Kingston during his entrance and locked himself one of the Pauls, becoming an official participant in the matchup for the World Heavyweight Championship after losing his WWE Championship early in the night. So it's pretty crazy. You had Edge being that one guy for the first time ever competed in 2 chamber matches, losing his WWE Championship in one, and later on that night competing in another for the World Heavyweight Championship. And get this, Edge won the match. That's pretty surreal there, It really, really is surreal. Oh, man. And in the 2010 Chamber matchup, Cody Rhodes passed Ted DiBiase Jr. a metal steel pipe which was used to eliminate Randy Orton in the match for the WWE Championship. Later on in the night, Shawn Michaels broke into the Chamber to cost the Undertaker the World Heavyweight Championship against Y2J's Chris Jericho. At the Elimination Chamber event in February of 2013, Mark Henry took out the remaining participants in the Chamber match for the World Heavyweight Championship for a World Heavyweight Championship match at WrestleMania 29. After being eliminated until SmackDown General Manager time, Booker T broke it up. At Elimination Chamber match for the WWE World Heavyweight Championship in February 2014, the Wyatt family interfered by attacking John Cena, leading to his eventual elimination by Randy Orton. In that same match, minutes later, Kane would then come out to help escort the Wyatt family out of the chamber, but will then later interfere to cost Daniel Bryan the match, having Orton win and retain his WWE World Heavyweight Championship. So it's pretty crazy here. It really is, you know. Oh man. Well, let's look at some of the chamber matches I've been over the past number, of years. Let me talk about this though. I'm a big fan of the very first inaugural chamber match that took place at the 2002 Survivor Series event, featuring Triple H defending the World Heavyweight Championship against Chris Jericho, Kane, Booker T, Rob Van Dam, and the Heartbreak Kid Shawn Michaels. I mean, think about it. This match was grueling for the past month when Eric Bischoff, the Raw GM at the time, announced it to the world that there will be a chamber match take place at the Survivor Series. The first time ever. It was MSG, New York City, on November 17, 2002. It was so important that, this match happened, because, like I said, for Shawn Michaels, this is his second match coming back since beating Triple H at SummerSlam and in that non-sanctioned matchup. And for these other four guys like Booker T, Van Dam, Kane, and Chris Jericho, that all want to become the champion of the world, felt like they really had to really win this matchup to edge the name in history of becoming the World Heavyweight Champion. And it's crazy because both Triple H, who was the champion, and Rob Van Dam started out the matchup here, and it was a great match from start to finish. Kane come out, Booker T, Jericho, Michaels. It's pretty amazing. It was definitely one of the chamber matches that you can remember, especially at the ending. The memorable moment where Shawn Michaels kicked out of that super kick, Triple H going for another pedigree, and Shawn Michaels said another sweet chin music here, get the 1, 2, 3 on Triple H to become the new World Heavyweight Champion. And then JR in the background saying, do you believe in miracles? That, to me, that first match inside the chamber at that event would later on send a series of chamber matches to be memorable just as the first one. So, as far as any World Championship, the Elimination match goes, this one was near and dear to my heart and will become one of the best chamber matches to ever happen in history. So it's pretty amazing. As far as any chamber match goes, I think this one would be one of my top favorite ones of all time. Alright, let's look at another one here. Well, I would say this is memorable, but probably one of the shortest chamber matches in history. But this one, from SummerSlam 03, that featured the same type match for the same championship, the World Championship by Triple H. He would defend against Randy Orton, Chris Jericho, Kevin Nash, Shawn Michaels, and Bill Goldberg. You're thinking, these 6 guys in the chamber is pretty much a star-studded chamber match right here, which was announced by Stone Cold Steve Austin on the August 3rd episode of Monday Night Raw. So you're thinking, this match could go either way. Any of these guys had the potential to win the match and become the World Heavyweight Champion, even with Triple H being the defending champion himself. It's pretty crazy here, because you will see Kevin Nash, which he was one of my favorite superstars, get eliminated first, sadly. And, I didn't really like it too much, but it's like he was Shawn Michaels, so you know what, it's kind of fitting. But then we got like Randy Orton, Jericho come out here, and you had Goldberg come out next. He pretty much ran through the entire competition, eliminating Jericho, Michaels, and Orton, leaving down to him and Triple H. When Triple H's pod was open, if he refused to come out, because Goldberg kicks the plexiglass down, makes his way into the chamber matchup, and starts beating on Triple H here. Even though he's going for that spear, and Ric Flair slides that sledgehammer into the ring, hands it to Triple H. Goldberg then sees him. As he's going for the spear, he knocks Goldberg out with that sledgehammer to the side of the head, would hit the pedigree, and the 1, 2, 3, just like that. And that match, I believe, was about 19 minutes and 12 seconds. So, For a star-studded match like this, I was disappointed that Goldberg was not dominated, but Clinton Triple H, it just took out. He was basically taken out just by one sledgehammer shot and pedigree, and that was it. So this would not be one of the sucky chain matches that happened in history, but one of the shortest and kind of disappointing in a way too. So it's not really that good of a match. But I really did. I really appreciate the stars that happened because you look at it in paper. This really is a star-studded type of match, but it didn't really live up to the potential that it could have. You know. Alrighty, we'll be right back after this commercials and after this advertising from Anchor.fm, and we'll talk about more chain matches that are memorable and near the dear to your hearts. Alright, we are back with this full episode of Gotta Have Heart Wrestling featuring yours truly, Jamel Honus. And gotta talk about some of the other great matches that have taken place as part of Elimination Chamber history goes. And there's one though, another one that comes up to mind here. This one I really enjoyed. The SmackDown Elimination Chamber match that features SmackDown and ECW stars at No Way Out 2008 and featured Finlay, MVP, The Great Khali, Big Daddy V, Batista, and The Undertaker. And what's interesting about this matchup here, when I was first heard about this, watching WWE about 13 years ago at the time, and just seeing how this match was made, and when the match came about, you see that Batista and The Undertaker, who were the two biggest stars of the company at the time, were the first two who were going to start out this matchup. And of course, we've had people come out every 5 minutes. You had Great Khali come out first. This one, Big Daddy comes out. And then Finlay did MVP. And then there was actually one spot in the matchup where Undertaker was chasing at the MVP. MVP goes to one of the top of the pods. Undertaker grabs him by his neck and just throws him off into an inverted backwards choke slam. And that was pretty surreal. And ended up getting eliminated by Finlay. And thinking, holy crap. The Undertaker's dominant inside the chamber. And it's pretty crazy because it came down as the first two. Batista and Undertaker came down to them as being the last two to end the matchup too. I think that was the first time that you had first two of the same people start the match and then two of the same people end the match as well. Because even came down to Batista bomb spine buster and Undertaker kicks out. Even I think Batista kicked out of 1 tombstone but couldn't kick it out of 2. And Undertaker would get the victory and would advance to WrestleMania 24 that year to defeat Edge and become the new World Heavyweight Champion. So I think, this chamber was really important in a way that it really got The Undertaker over. And seeing now this was The Undertaker's first chamber match and he wins. So that just what made things even more prestigious in his career as far as him chasing after the World Heavyweight Championship at the time. So it was pretty good though. But not only that, the SmackDown chamber match in Italian was good. Think about the one in 2009. Because the following year, at No Way Out 2009, we had Edge defending the WWE Championship against Jeff Hardy, The Big Show, Vladimir Kozlov, The Undertaker, and the Game Triple H. What's not huge about this matchup here? This is very historically making. Seeing as, we had Jeff Hardy and Edge, who had this seemingly rivalry since the Royal Rumble, even before that, when Jeff won the championship at Armageddon, sucks to his brother Jeff Hardy that cost him that same day championship at the Royal Rumble. And then now we get the chain match where those two men, Edge and Jeff Hardy, are starting the chamber matches as numbers 1 and 2. It's pretty crazy. It wasn't even until the first 2 minutes of the matchup where Jeff Hardy had eliminated Edge by a small package. That's the first. That's never happened before. So now it was guaranteed that we were going to have a new WWE champion. And with all the other 4 guys are still locked in their pods. Of course, Jeff Hardy had to wait for Vladimir to come out, then the Big Show, and then Triple H and the Undertaker himself. But I think what set out this match the most when it came down to Triple H and the Undertaker, I think at that moment we saw a little bit of the past in the present as far as the Undertaker Triple H matches goes. Those two went back and forth. We had a tombstone, Triple H kicks out, a pedigree, Undertaker kicks out, Undertaker tries to go for another tombstone, doesn't work. Even the last ride didn't work. Triple H hits a pedigree, and Triple H gets the 1, 2, 3 and becomes the new WWE Champion, and will go on to WrestleMania 25, the silver anniversary WrestleMania, to defend the WWE Championship against Randy Orton. So, and I think at that moment, I was just like one of those classic wrestling fans. I'm like, oh shit, yeah, we've seen Triple H and Undertaker fight to become WWE Champion. This is like, it was surreal. Because I think that the only other time that Triple H and Undertaker have fought for the prestigious title was at the 2002 King of the Ring event in Columbus, Ohio. So it's pretty interesting to see, Undertaker Triple H go one on one for those temporarily 5-10 minutes. So that's pretty good. But not only that, was that match historic for that event. Later on that night, we see John Cena defend the World Heavyweight Championship against Rey Mysterio, Kane, Mike Knox, Chris Jericho, and was supposed to be Kofi Kingston. But when Kofi Kingston was making his entrance to the ring, would get attacked by Edge. Edge placed himself inside the pod to have himself an official entry. And yeah, we know Rey Mysterio and Chris Jericho started out the first two. And by the time it was Edge's time to come out, and they see Rey Mysterio speaking all over him, his temper raised through the roof about how Edge attacked Kingston, taking him out of the match, putting himself into the match up here. But it was interesting that when John Cena got eliminated, it was definitely guaranteed to be world champion. But it came down to Edge and Rey Mysterio, who would have this rivalry from the past when they used to be a tag team on SmackDown a number of years ago. And now you see these two battle out here. And in the ending, you see Edge hit a spear and Rey Mysterio out of nowhere, gets the 1-2-3. Now Edge is your new World Heavyweight Champion. I'm thinking, is this right? Edge was the championship in the beginning of the evening. Now he's the World Heavyweight Championship at the end of this event. Is he going to bring the World Championship to SmackDown, or is he going over to Monday Night Raw? And as a fan, I was still in high school. I was trying to process, how the hell is this going to work? Like, Edge lost one championship just to win another on separate brands. So this is pretty surreal. That match, I think that whole night was historic because of those two chain matches. I think both those chain matches really told a story as far as the way we were going to see Wrestlemania 25 later on that year. So it was pretty surreal that all this happened all in one night. And I think this is pretty much how brutal the champion match is. All right, another one I want to talk about the following year. Not the WWE Championship one, but the one for the World Heavyweight Championship. That we will see Chris Jericho battled The Undertaker, John Morrison, Rey Mysterio, CM Punk, and R-Truth. This match is pretty good. It was pretty surreal. Except the fact that Undertaker come out and burn himself in the pyro, even his jacket caught on fire, and having second-degree burns. I can't imagine what that feels, me not having to go through it, but for The Undertaker, I hope he was okay. As you see Undertaker so many times throughout that match, waiting inside his pod, having to douse himself in water every second, so, oh man. But damn, it's crazy, because you had it come down to Chris Jericho, The Undertaker. Mind you, the one guy who chased out The Undertaker since his loss for the previous WrestleMania 25 to the Silver Anniversary event was Shawn Michaels. He had wanted one more match with Undertaker. He said that at the Slam, he tried to get the Rumble and failed. So what did he do? Like any competitor would do? Get inside the chamber by tearing off one of the floor from the floor of the chamber, getting inside, super kiss the Undertaker with sweet chin music, and let Chris Jericho put the Undertaker 1-2-3, and Chris Jericho is your new world champion. I think by far this was the perfect way to continue. It wasn't really about the chamber itself or the championship. It was just the perfect way to continue the Undertaker Shawn Michaels ongoing rivalry, and to make it that match that would happen at WrestleMania 26 so personal that not only Undertaker's streak was on the line, but Shawn Michaels' career was on the line as well. So I think for that event, the inaugural Chamber event 2010 was a perfect way to set up that WrestleMania match that we all wanted to see again. As a fan, I definitely want to see it. I was happy to see it, so, Alrighty. Let's see. One more chamber match that really, really stood out to me here, and this is pretty cool. I actually love this one. Was the Elimination Chamber match from 2019 that we saw. Daniel Bryan defended the WWE Champion against Randy Orton, Kofi Kingston, AJ Styles, Jeff Hardy, and Samoa Joe. To me, it was why I love this chamber match so much. I can go back and rewatch it over and over again. Is that the way this whole match went about? All these guys left their heart, sweat, tears in the ring, blood, sweat, and tears in the ring in that matchup. To the point where it came down to both Daniel Bryan and Kofi Kingston. I'm thinking, okay, this is Kofi Kingston's moment. He has to win the WWE Championship here. Like, 11 years being in business and not having too many World Championship matches, but for a chance to become a champion, this is pretty surreal. I think in Kofi Kingston's career, this was probably the best we've seen Kofi Kingston at any time. I talked about this recently on my bonus episode about the Elimination Chamber 2019 event, and I'm talking about it again because like when it came down to Daniel Bryan and Kofi Kingston, it was so surreal that I felt in my heart that Kofi was going to become the new WWE champion. He was going to beat Daniel Bryan, become champion, get that celebration, that obligation that we all wanted to see from him, and that he truly deserved. So it's pretty amazing here. It really was. Unfortunately, Daniel Bryan did get the upper hand, better of Kingston, and got the 1, 2, 3. And but the thing is, what the moment that happened after the match, after Daniel Bryan left the ring with this eco-friendly WWE Championship belt, was the standing ovation. You got the New Day members, Biggie and Xavier Woods, come out there to assist Kofi, and Kofi just sitting on the chamber steps and tears coming down his face, and everybody keeps saying thank you, Kofi, or Kofi Mania. Like, it was so surreal that moment at that event. And I think that was the perfect way to close out the show because I'm pretty sure, that wasn't the last time we're going to see Kofi go after the WWE Championship. And thank God he did because Kofi would get that victory and win at the WrestleMania 35 in New Jersey. And that moment he had finally got. And getting the old WWE Championship belt too was a plus for us fans that didn't let the eco-friendly WWE Championship belt. It's pretty surreal. It is. So, but yeah, it's pretty amazing. Like this whole history of the champion match itself. But in conclusion, I will be right back after this sponsor from Anchor.f to talk about and maybe put this episode under wraps. It's pretty good so far. Alright, good evening everybody and welcome back to the special full episode of Gotta Have Heart Wrestling featuring your truly Jamal Honest. And we're going to put a little cap on this episode here, talk about the history of the Elimination Chamber itself. And we got to look forward to the Sunday Chamber event exclusive on their network from the Tropicana St. Petersburg, Florida, Tropicana Field at the WWE Thunderdome. And as far as this match looks, it's going to be really good. It's going to be really good, and I can't wait for it to happen. As far as, like, the matches go, we have 2 matches that will be inside the chamber itself. One of them will be for the WWE Championship, where now it'll be Jeff Hardy versus Randy Orton versus Sheamus versus AJ Styles with the defending champion Drew McIntyre. And supposedly The Miz, Mr. Money in the Bank, was supposed to complete this matchup here, but now has decided to take himself out of the chamber match since he declared himself Mr. Money in the Bank. There's no reason for him to be inside the chamber, and is now being replaced by Kofi Kingston. Mind you, the same Kofi Kingston that competed in the chamber 2 years ago almost defeated Daniel Bryan to become WWE champion. Could we see a possible Kofi Mania 2 on the road to WrestleMania this year? We're going to find out. We're just only 3 short days away from WWE Elimination Chamber live this Sunday on pay-per-view, February 21st, exclusively on the WWE Network. And the other chamber matchup too. This is pretty surreal because this match will be Jey Uso versus Kevin Owens versus King Corbin versus Sami Zayn versus Cesaro and versus Daniel Bryan. The only twist is, for the champion matchup, the winner will receive a title shot against Roman Reigns for the Universal Championship in the same night, immediately right after the champion match concludes. I don't know what one of these six men are going to have left after competing in this brutal, diabolical chamber match and getting that title shot immediately right after this chamber match ends against the Universal Champion Roman Reigns. Other matches on the card, we got Asuka defending the Raw Women's Championship against a now pregnant Lacey Evans. I'm not sure if this is a storyline, but rumors have been leading up to this that Lacey Evans' pregnancy is legit. She's actually pregnated. Don't know by who, But eventually they're played off a storyline by Charlotte Flair's father, the Nature Boy Ric Flair, which I far from the truth there. So, yeah, but we'll see how that match goes about. And this is very historic. This is a match I'm looking forward to personally. We have the United States Champion, Bobby Lashley, defending his championship in a triple threat matchup against Keith Lee and Riddle. This match, I think, has the possibility of stealing the show for this Sunday, and it's going to be really good. Bobby Lashley has been on an awesome tear as United States Champion, a very dominating United States Champion as of late. So now we get Riddle, who has been up and coming superstar on Raw since debuting in WWE after last year's SummerSlam. As far as Keith Lee goes, he is the real deal. We can see all 3 of these big guys get it on here and make sure who was the best to walk out of the Elimination Chamber, the United States Champion. Hopefully, the end of the match will be announced within this week in WWE, leading to the Chamber event for this Sunday night. And I think it's been pretty historic. Who matters who walks as the WWE champion or even walks out the Universal champion? We're on the road to WrestleMania. Who will be WWE champion by the time we head to our next pay-per-view? Sunday, March 21st, WWE Fastlane. And don't forget, WrestleMania will be live on the network on the two-night event for Saturday, April 10th and Sunday, April 11th. WrestleMania is going to be the biggest shows of the year. And don't forget, people, to tune in to my debut live YouTube podcast episode, Wednesday, April 28th. We don't know what we're going to talk about here. Well, maybe I know, but you guys don't. You're going to be free to tune in live. I'll be broadcasting on YouTube live for my podcast for the God of Heart Wrestling. We're gonna have fun that day. We're definitely gonna have fun. Gonna throw everything out the window there and see what sticks. So, yeah. Hope you have a good night and be safe. And don't forget, Wednesday, April 28th, my debut episode live on YouTube. Look me on Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter. God of Heart Wrestling. See you then.